It's Halloween. Da, 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 da. I don't know. I don't know the song. Okay, so I should put something scary behind me to like be festive for Halloween. Boom. Okay, so happy spooky month, everybody. It is October, and it is finally time for me to announce that I will be a co-host for Fortnight Frights. Fortnight Frights is a read-along that was created by the brilliant Saajid of Artesian Geek. I will leave a link to her channel up above. Please go subscribe to Saajid if you haven't already. She reached out to me and asked me if I'd like to be a co-host for this excellent project that she's hosting with a bunch of other people, and I gladly said yes because it sounded great. Halloween has never really been a thing in Trinidad. It's not really a part of our culture like it is like American or global North culture. So I've never been trick-or-treating. I've never dressed up for Halloween or anything like that, but I grew up watching it on TV and in media, so I always have somewhat of like a sentimental attachment to it. So I'm really happy to be participating, and not just participating but also co-hosting this spoopy readathon. So if you don't know anything about Fortnight Frights, it's a fortnight long readathon, so it's taking place for 2 weeks. It takes place from this date to this date. I'll put it on the screen. So the last 2 weeks in October essentially, and the main goal of the read along is to read primarily books that are horror, spooky, scary, macabre. They don't have to be scary. They don't have to be like horror. They don't have to be books that will creep you out or unsettle you or give you anxiety, but just books that might be more macabre and dark and gloomy in nature. The other main goal of Fortnight Frights is to read diversely, so not just to read books by white, cisgender, able-bodied, heterosexual authors. Read books from a diverse array of authors from different cultures. So this read-along is not just an opportunity for you to explore more dark, gothic, spooky, scary, macabre literature, but to also find and uplift and read the voices of authors who have been marginalized within that genre. So there are a couple of really helpful links that I'll be leaving in the description down below that you should check out if you want to learn more about the read-along and participate in it. We first have Saajid's announcement video, which is very helpful, and she goes through all of the things, so definitely give that a watch. I'll also be including a link to the Fortnight Frights Twitter account. There's also the information page, so if you want to learn more about the read-along and you have more questions about it, you can definitely go check that out there. We also have a compendium. I've never heard that word before, but I think it's just a list of recommended books that would very well fall into the category of what we want you to read for Fortnight Frights. There's an FAQ section, so if you have any particular questions about the read-along, you could address that page. There is a journal and sticker shop because Saajid actually has merch surrounding the readathon, which I think is amazing. So definitely, if you want to support Fortnight Frights, which I think would be a great thing to support, definitely go and see what's there and maybe buy something if you want to. It's not obligatory, of course. And finally, and I think this was really cool, Saajid also included a complaint page. So if you have any like issues, or if there's anything that you encounter that you have any problems with, if you find anything to be problematic about the read-along or anything like that, definitely address the complaint page and your concerns will be taken up. So that's all the information I could give you right now about the read-along. Now I want to go into what I will be reading. So another thing about the read-along is that there's actually 3 group reads. There are actually going to be live shows for all 3 of the books. You don't have to read all 3. I think Saajid is the only one who'll be reading all 3. The rest of the hosts only really have to read 1 each. So these are the 2 books that I won't be reading, and these are the respective dates for their live shows. So definitely take a note of that if you'd like to read along with any of these books and join the live shows. The book that I will be reading, though, is Things We Lost in a Fire, or Things We Lost in the Fire by Mariana Enriquez. And the live show for this one will be taking place on this date, so definitely look out for that if you want to read this book with us and join us for the live show. I will be present there discussing this book. This is Argentinian Literature. It's a collection of short stories that were all translated from Spanish by Megan McDowell. They all take place in like the suburbs of Buenos Aires, and essentially they explore different issues that people are going through, but with a horror twist. So the stories are meant to be a little bit speculative and disturbing even, and they are meant to sort of parallel some of the things that people who live in this area are going through. That's pretty much everything I know about it, but it sounds very interesting. I'm a little scared because it is considered to be horror, and you all know, as I said, I don't do well with horror, so I'm hoping that this doesn't creep me out too much, but I think it's good for me to come out of my comfort zone and read something a little bit different time than I would usually. I'll also be attempting to read 3 other books for the read-along as well. The first one is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole, and this is a thriller, so it's not really horror or scary or even macabre in any ways, but it's still a thriller, and it is a thriller about gentrification. Essentially, it's set in a neighborhood somewhere in Brooklyn, I believe, and a predominantly black neighborhood, and this neighborhood begins to be gentrified. And eventually, as we follow through with the story, we start to realize that there are a lot of underhand things going on. So it's supposed to be very thrilling and very twisty. I don't really read a lot of thrillers or anything like that, so I'm very much looking forward to see how I get along with this type of story. I don't think I've even read a thriller before. Like, I've read mysteries, but I don't think I've ever read anything in the thriller genre. So this will be a first for me, and I've heard amazing things about Alyssa Cole as an author, and it just sounds so interesting. So I'm hoping, and I definitely anticipate that I will enjoy it. The next book that I'll be reading is Undead Gilgamesh by Lily Anderson. I've had this on my TBR for so long. It's been on my shelves for like 2 years at this point, so it's about time that I finally read it. It is a story about a girl named Mila Flores, who is a teenage Wiccan. Her best friend Riley dies, and along with 2 other girls at their school, and it's written off as a suicide pact, and Mila doesn't believe that, so she resurrects Riley and the 2 other girls as undead zombies, and conveniently they don't remember what happened to them like in the day prior to their death, so they have a week before the spell wears off to kind of figure out what really went down and how the girls died. So it's like a gang of undead girls solving a mystery. It's supposed to be somewhat satirical and not really meant to be taken seriously, so I'm really looking forward to that because I like books like Beauty Queens and Gentleman's Guide. I really like that kind of satirical YA novel that doesn't take itself too seriously, so I'm looking forward to seeing what I make of this. I remember when it first came out, everybody was raving it, so hopefully I feel the same way that most people do. The last book that I'll be trying to read for the read-along is Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs by Doty, who is a mortician, and she has a whole YouTube channel called Ask a Mortician, which is one of my favorite YouTube channels to watch. I have read her 2 other books earlier this year and absolutely adored both of them, so I'm really looking forward to this one. It's her most recent release, and it is essentially her answering questions from children about death, because children ask weird questions, especially weird questions about death. So she's essentially like taking on these questions seriously and literally explaining to you her answers to these very strange inquiries from kids, like, will my cat eat my eyeballs? There's a question along the lines of can I keep my parents' skull after their death? And Caitlin actually goes through paragraphs explaining to the reader. It's not meant for kids, even though she's answering kids. It's an adult book. But she's going through all these paragraphs just explaining, well, you know, here's a logical answer to this very bizarre question. And I think that's such an interesting concept. It's very different from her first 2 books, so I'm looking forward to reading this and seeing what I think of it as well. In the comments, I would love to know if you are participating in Fortnight Frights. Have you read any of the books that I will be reading? Are you planning on reading any of them? Let me know. Let's have a chat about it. Make sure to check out all of the respective links in the description down below to learn more about the read-along if you would like to participate. It's really a no-brainer. There's no challenges or anything like that. All you have to do is read diversely and read spooky books. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely, lovely day, and until next time, inshallah, keep reading.